All right, y'all. It is me, Arthur, aka the Indie Comic Book Guy. Today we got a friend of the show, Mr. Todd Rayner, here to talk about his new Kickstarter for his book, Icepick, issue number 4. Now, before we get to that, I want you to stay here and listen to the whole interview. So I'm going to make you wait to hear about that greatness. Now, meanwhile, we are going to talk about comic book art, the career of an artist. Now, Todd did everything on this book. He wrote it, he drew it, he lettered, he inked it. He's a one-man machine. He's a Renaissance man in 2021. I almost said 2020. But we're going to touch on that because I have some questions. He has some answers. And I want you to check out this Kickstarter, which is launching May. Wait, I said May. It's launching in 7 days, right?
Yeah, you got it. Next Friday.
Yeah, it's launching next Friday. And I will post a link in the description so you can check it out. So definitely check this man out. Check out his work. He's a Renaissance man. He's a rare breed. He's Todd Rayner. Let's give some round of applause. Woo! I don't have a sound effects button, so we're going to go with that.
That works.
Now, Todd, I want to know your origin story. What got you into comics in the first place?
That goes back, I'm going to date myself, but that goes back to like the late 80s. I used to buy old G.I. Joe comics, and then Tom McFarlane drew one of the issues. I want to say it was issue 60, and it just kind of blossomed from there. I started following McFarlane's career, got involved in the whole, all the 7 Image guys right before they bounced out of Marvel and went to Image. So, I was the whole Spider-Man era, the whole X-Men with Jim Lee, just that era, even Rob Liefeld a little bit, with New Mutants, just that era, that got me super excited because the artwork was in your face. It was late 80s, early 90s. They didn't care. They had over-the-top stories, crazy stuff going on. And it just, as a teenager, I was like, yeah, this is cool,
No, I love that. You actually took one of my questions I was going to ask you. No, because with your art style, a lot of people have compared it to the 1990s Image comics. And, you just named off a lot of your influences, which was one of my questions. Who are your artistic influences? And I've seen a lot of people have taken this 90s Image, not just Image, 90s comic style, and it's kind of come back. Do you find that a gift or a curse when it comes to your art career?
I've just been waiting for it to happen. It went away. It's been 30 years. I was in the 2000s, I'm art went to crap. And it's just a personal choice. I just didn't, for me, it's more of a blessing. I started Icepick when I was 15. Literally on 8.5 by 11 paper. I cut it down to comic book size. I did it in pencil and ink and color pencils. And, I still have a lot of those old pages, and it's hilarious to look back and at that old 90s kind of artwork. But for me, I think it's more of a blessing. I think more people, as I do shows, people kind of they're starting to gravitate more towards that, just ridiculous over the top style. And for me, comics are all about the super fantastical. I don't want to read about Spider-Man and, Peter Parker real life with kids. And I got enough drama in life. I don't need it in my comics. So that's
right.
That's where the premises came. When I was a teenager, it was write a story that's fun, has some drama, but it's got these supernatural elements into it. It's got the superhero element into it. It's got the good guys and the bad guys, and the Superman, Joker, Batman, Spawn, Violator. The whole thing. It's got all the good and the bad and all the fun in between.
You're saying all this, and I'm thinking, because we did before the interview, I went and I was like, Todd has an Etsy store. I was like, what comic book creator has an Etsy store? I was like, you know what? That's an untapped market right there. Yeah. And I saw your original drawings of Spawn, Spider-Man, Violator, Gambit, and so forth, as well as your own characters. And I was like, this is a great idea. Why ain't more comic book creators on Etsy?
Yeah.
I was like, he has that in common with my wife. She has an Etsy store too.
Nice, yeah. It's new to me. I know I do a handful of shows out here in the Pacific Northwest. There's a lot of, between Washington State and Oregon, there's a lot of comic shows. The last year has been super crazy, but generally speaking, I'll get into a handful of shows, and I've met some really talented people. And these indie creators, these other artists, they're on Etsy, and I'm like, why the hell not? And give it a shot, see what happens. So, it took a while to get it up and running, but it's paid for itself, and I've made some money off of it, so I can't complain.
Exactly. Now, you stated something on Facebook. I think it was yesterday or the day before. You said, here's a reminder to all of y'all. Okay, you didn't say it like that, but what you said was, here's a reminder. Your art doesn't have to be perfect.
Yep.
Just keep arting.
Yep.
And I was like, is arting a word? We're going to go with it. Now,
it's my word.
What prompted this statement? And do you honestly feel that there's no such thing as bad art?
Oh, there's bad art. Without a doubt. There's, we're not going to talk about some of the stuff Marvel's been doing. We'll just leave that there. And it's no knock on those artists. They're, they have a job, they have deadlines, and the big three. I put Image in the big three. You get Dark Horse and some of the other smaller companies. They push artists to such a degree and such an extreme now where they cannot be creatively good. And for me, it's like I've seen a lot of criticism. I've taken a lot of criticism. Like even in relationship to my artwork in this story, it's not perfect. Nothing is. I haven't been doing comics for, I've been drawing forever, but it's not like I've been professionally doing a monthly book for the last 30 years, like some of these creators. So for me, it's like, it was a motivational thing internally, but apparently everyone else liked it because it's got like a ton of likes and a lot of interaction on it, and which is great. And people are posting art, and it's just support other artists, support these people that are out there trying to do what they can do in these crazy times, and just enjoy it. Enjoy it for what it is. The anatomy doesn't always have to be perfect. The storytelling, get your point across. And for me, like, I'll accept a lot of those things. I'll accept some of the holes or the flaws and things because I enjoy it. I enjoy the art side of it. I enjoy the fun storytelling side of things.
See, I love that because, and you touched on this earlier, when you were talking about 90s comics and how things were fun. They were over the top. Nothing has to be perfect. And I feel like in the last few years, the last 2-3 years, comic books, especially from a creator standpoint, have become so political that the fun has been sucked out of it.
Yeah. And for me, like, that's a great kind of point you make there because, we can get to the whole political side of things. And I try to stay out of that. Like, I support everything, people's choices, people's free will. And if I have a story to tell about a certain situation or person or character, that's just naturally going to be there. I don't like forced storytelling. I don't like, let's change this character, the gender swapping, the kind of race swapping. These types of things to me feel very forced. And I honestly, now that got me thinking about it, like the first time that I found out like Spawn was a black guy, I was blown away. I'm like, this is the way to do it. Like, it's not forced. It's just, that's him. There's no color involved. There's no race involved. Al Simmons is just Al Simmons. He's a person, not a skin color, not, anything particular. And that's how I try to write my stories. Like, these characters have a story to tell. I have a story to tell. And, I try to stay away from things that really don't need to be in comics. I feel I don't want to force stuff. I just want to have fun and read my comics,
Exactly. And I feel the same way. Actually, a few years ago, Ja Rule, he's a rapper.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I know who Ja Rule is.
Yeah, Fast and Furious, man. He was like killing it.
He made a comment about his music. He was like, I don't let my kids listen to my music, but if they turn on MTV and they see two girls kissing, now I have to step into parent mode and explain this. Yeah. And I relate that to comics now, as far as, growing up, 8-year-old kid, 12-year-old kid, some of us live sheltered lives, and now you flip over a comic, your kid flips open a comic. Now you might have to have a conversation with your kid about something they see. It's not saying that there's anything wrong with what's in the page. It's just sometimes you're not ready, or your kid is not ready for some of the things they see, and you have to have that conversation with them.
And it's a double-edged sword. Like, I mean, you want to, if those are legitimate stories that society kind of deems these writers want to write about, that's great. Fine, go do it. But then again, like you say, it's putting yourself in a weird situation, because at 14, 15, when I started reading comics, there wasn't really much of that. I think X-Men was probably the most diverse, and also they tackled a lot of problems, like society problems and different things about race and gender and all that. So for me, it was just natural. Like, that's how it is. There was nothing overly forced or, purposely put, and again, you're talking, 30 years ago, you didn't have Kickstarters. You didn't have platforms. I mean, I could have never had this book published 30 years ago, even maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, because the things have changed in this world where it's a lot easier for like us as creators, us as freelance artists, writers, whoever, to get our work out there. So you're seeing a lot more diversity as far as storytelling and characters go. And that just, you'll see with the next project I have after Icepick, it's going to be a completely 180 from still in the Icepick world, but it's going to be a complete 180 from what Icepick is. It's a whole different thing. So that's just us content creators. We have ideas and stories to tell.
Exactly. And I personally believe there's a market for each type of book.
Yeah.
And we talk about inclusion, we talk about diversity. I'm all for it if it fits the story.
Absolutely.
Some narratives, some things don't need to be there. I remember, heck, still even today, Spawn, for example, you mentioned them earlier. You couldn't get Spawn. You had to ask the comic book shop guy, hey, can you get Spawn? Y'all put it way up there in the mature reader section. and Savage Dragon, I understand. Like, Savage Dragon is having orgies with his sister. Like,
craziness.
It's crazy. But, what I was saying with the Ja Rule comparison, it's like now those books aren't in the mature reader section. No. They're in the regular section. And some kids and some parents aren't ready to have some of those conversations about some of the things they see. It's like, whoa, we were cool with the violence.
Yeah. I've always been cool with the violence, a little bit of blood, that's fine, gore. But once you start getting into politics and race and sexuality, then it's like, oh no, wait a minute, let's pump the brakes. And, I don't feel that. I don't write that way. It's like, if the story deems there to be something there, like whether it's race, violence, whatever, then it's there intentionally for the story. It's not just there for a shock factor. It's not, I'm not the Alice Cooper of comics. I'm not doing things just for shock factor. I'm doing them because it fits the story. And issue 4 really solidifies, like, it's kind of like the bookend. Issue 1 starts it, issue 4 is going to end it, and then it leads up to the next story arc of the next characters. So it's got to be intentional, and it's just got to flow. There's got to be a flow to it.
And I think that'll make everybody happy. If it fits the story, if there's a flow, great. Let us know if it is something that might alarm a parent, might alarm a kid. Hey, mature reader section, or put a label on it. Because a kiss is one thing, but I've seen books where I'm just like, I didn't feel comfortable. Like, they're doing what?
Yeah. There's a lot of that out there. There's a lot of that out there.
And for the record, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's guy and girl, girl and girl, guy and guy. Some things I don't feel comfortable seeing in a comic book. Put it in a mature reader section.
Yeah, and you're right. They had that. I remember, back in the day, they would have these books. They'd be in black bags, and it just had the title of the book on it. And it's like, no, like, you got to be 18 to read that or purchase that book. And, I kind of understand it, but in the same sense, like, you want to attract new readers, like my book is kind of in all ages. There's a little bit of violence, there's a little bit of craziness going on, and it does kind of touch on some more mature themes, more, not necessarily adult in nature, but more like smarter ideas and themes. But they're very much under the surface. You really have to think about what's going on. And now it's like I walk into a shop and everything is out there for everybody to see. There is no separation here. And, you're right. It can put parents into a very interesting dilemma. Should I let my 10-year-old go to the comic shop? I mean, I used to go as a kid by myself. Well, I mean, kids aren't doing that. How do you attract new readers if you don't have a way to attract them, and you don't separate these things for the parents? I agree.
That's an interesting segue. To my next question. Now, someone, when you this time, they made a statement about comic book art not being in high demand, which is why publishers and writers aren't hiring artists at the pay rate that the artists are demanding, which is why a lot of comic book freelance artists are not getting gigs, because the artists are demanding X amount of dollars, but the writers and the publishers are like, no, your art's not in demand. I will pay you half of that.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
Oh, it's total crap.
Well, there you go.
I mean, the short answer is, every artist, I think it's a combination of a lot of people, publishers don't want to take risks. They don't want to take a risk because they see that maybe the industry has shifted. The industry is now more live entertainment versus, floppies and individual issues and trades and all that stuff. So there's that dollar shift, and these companies, they see dollar signs. That's they're in it for a business, and I get that. The other side is I've also seen a lot of artists that, think that they're worth way more than what their art shows. And you have to understand your self-value. I could sit there and say, I'm worth $200 a page for pencils. Well, that's just ridiculous. I'm lucky if I charge, 50, 75 bucks for pencils, because that's where I feel comfortable at as far as the quality of work versus a dollar amount. And the other thing is, like, a lot of more artists are going over, a lot of companies are going overseas. So with the whole dollar exchange, you can get way more for your money for 60 bucks a page or 80 bucks a page if you hire, Filipino artists or Italian artists or, other artists in other countries, just with the whole dollar exchange. So that's great that there's this world economy now, but it does kind of shift, where the art is coming from and the look.
Ooh, dang. I like that you said it shifts the look.
Yeah. I mean, look at a lot of the art from, the Philippines. I mean, I'm friends with a few Italian artists, and they just have a very unique style, and it's not bad. By all means, it's absolutely great, but there is definitely a shift in the look of books, where you went from the 90s, and then Brian Hitch came out, kind of did this more realism style. People loved it, so they were hiring all that kind of style. And today it's like the floodgates are open. There's a platform for any kind of style, for any kind of artwork, whether it's anime, realism, superhero, however you want to define art, comic art, there's a platform for it.
That's true. Now, do you think, and I'm playing devil's advocate here,
sure,
do you think some indie artists have not gained the catalog of work to demand the price that they're asking? Not that their skill is bad. Yeah. I'm just saying the body of work.
Well, for me, it's about discipline. There's a term that I've heard floated around over years of doing this is, it doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't matter how good you are. It matters if you turn work in on time. So you'll see a lot of people that maybe aren't as talented as other artists, but they turn the work in regularly and on time. So they get the work, and their work becomes in demand because it's in front of people's eyes. And I would say that for me, it's just about continuing to do it every day, I work a full-time job. So it's like nights and weekends, whenever I can, that's what I try to do. And I could see that the body of work, it might matter to some people. For me, I've hired people to do art, variant covers for me. They've not done really anything professionally. So I just hire them because I like their artwork and I'm a fan first, you know.
I like that. I like that. See, I'm glad you are here today. I'm glad you're here today. You're like, yo, this is what I do.
Love it or hate it.
Exactly. And this is a conversation like some artists get triggered with these conversations because it's not an easy conversation. And I tell people, I don't need to know everybody's page rates unless I'm looking to hire them.
Right.
Now, what's the unfair amount that an artist, you know, it would be insulting to say, Todd, I want you to draw my book. I'll pay you X amount. What's an insulting amount for an artist?
I'll tell you what, I started out more as a digital colorist, and I worked professionally for a few years on and off doing that. I've had people pay me as low as $25 a page, you know, and that's coming from a high profile professional artist offering $25 a page, which is fine, you know, depending on the book and the style. For me, I gauge how long does it take me to do a page? You know, is it 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? I mean, some of these Icepick pages, I just pour so much into it. It's 3-4 hours later, and I just keep noodling around and tinkering with the colors and playing with stuff. But for me, it just depends on the project. It depends on, you know, what color is it? Cell shading, you know, kind of anime style. Is it more realistic styling? And then I've run into this a lot. It's a preference thing, where people are like, oh, your work's good, but I like what I see on the comic shelves. Can you color that way? Can you draw that way? And I refuse to. I mean, I'm stubborn. I'm not going to lie. I'm a stubborn guy. And I like the way I color. I think it looks good. I enjoy it. I've had a lot of people enjoy it. Obviously, I mean, the book is sell. When I go to conventions, my book sells. You know, there's a following there. So I'm not always a conformist. And an insulting page rate, yeah, I mean, you're talking anything probably below $20 is probably insulting. $30, you know. But in this industry, you get what you pay for. I firmly believe that. If you're diligent and you find an artist for $30-$40, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get $30-$40 worth of art, whatever it be. You know, and there's a lot of artists that just kind of do their own thing, and they're very good at it, and they're very quick. So maybe they can charge $30 and turn out 10 pages a day, you know, and it looks fantastic. It's a very person to person type of thing.
Dang, that's profound. I agree with you 100%. Now, the reason we are here is because people want to know about Icepick. Issue 4 is dropping next Friday on Kickstarter. Let's talk about Icepick. What is Icepick about? Then I got some follow-up questions because I want to know, because I did some research. I was looking on Kickstarter for like Icepick issues 1, 2, and 3. And I was like, well, I saw issue 2 was canceled. So my first question, before you tell us what Icepick's about, is why didn't you launch issue 1 or the whole collection, issues 1, 2, and 3, and 4? Because I'm assuming that with this Kickstarter, they can get the first 3 issues.
Yeah. Yes to everything. So long story short was I did issue 1, no funding, no campaign, no Indiegogo, no Kickstarter, 100% me, put all the money into it to get it all done. I did like a ash can. It was like the first 6 or 8 pages at a convention. And I was like, well, let me just see, you know, what people think. And it was a black and white. I did letter it, so there was part of the story there. And actually, I think I sold like 20 copies of it or something ridiculous. For me, like my very first convention with Icepick. And I was like, wow, damn, I guess there's kind of a market here. And it's like a third of an issue, and people really liked it. So I kept plugging away. Issue 1, just released it on my own. Issue 2, I did start a Kickstarter with it. And that was my first Kickstarter. That was me learning the platform, learning the market, learning what to do, what not to do. And looking back, I would say I probably maybe put the goal a little bit too high. I think I had it like $700-800, and there wasn't enough following. There wasn't enough support. And I have to say, I'm definitely blessed because each issue I've gotten more and more support and more people are interested. And it's just that snowball effect. So I didn't meet my goal on that Kickstarter. So that's where that one kind of shows up randomly. So it got canceled, and I ran it through Indiegogo, and they had that flex funding. So no matter what happened, you're going to get, the money from that. And I think I did like $600-700 for issue 2. Same thing with issue 3. I was like, let me stick with Indiegogo because of the flex funding. And I just didn't feel I had the really big support for Kickstarter. For whatever reason, it just Kickstarter, that platform didn't work too well for issue 2. Issue 3 went pretty smooth, another $600-700 for that one. And, I figured now I'm gaining more support, more people are there's more visibility on it. I got other artists involved that are more Kickstarter friendly artists, cover artists, things like that. People that have a bigger social presence that I think really is going to help this campaign be successful.
Oh, I love that. And I realize that now in this new generation, it's really about social preference. I mean, social presence, having a strong social presence than the project itself. And I've seen people, they'll form creator groups where it's 10 or 20 of them, and they'll all back each other's projects, and it works. I'm not against it. If it works for you, it works for you. It helps get some money towards your campaign. It helps promote the campaign. Whatever works for you to get people to know about your project, to get them to support it, I'm all for it. And I've seen you out there. You've been, more talkative lately, more engaged lately than I've seen you in a long while.
I am not a social person. I am very much a kind of a recluse in that scenario. But, the funny thing is I love doing comic shows. I love, for whatever reason, I go to work, I come home. I don't go out a lot. I've never been a social person. And then I did my first convention. I'm like, damn, this is kind of fun. Because I would go to conventions anyways. I mean, there's the Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle that is just ridiculous. I mean, 120,000 people go to that show. And me and my wife would go, and we have a blast. And it's like, one day I'm going to be at that show selling my book. It's a tough one to get in. But so I'm just, it's tough being very active on social media. It's a constant reminder. It's like, post something, stay active, interact with people. It's okay if you piss someone off. It doesn't matter. You're obviously not going to have the same views as everybody. So it's kind of a love-hate thing for me.
I think it's like that for most of us. It's like, even with this show, I feel like I have to be more social, more engaging than I am in my normal, regular life. But it does help. I've been learning from these little 15, 16-year-olds on TikTok and YouTube because they figured out the algorithm of popularity. The algorithm of popularity. I'm going to use that. But they figured it out. And I'm 45. I'm trying to learn from them, how do you get this following? How do you maintain this following? How do you translate this following into them supporting you and buying your goods and services?
And honestly, I've always believed it only takes one person. I mean, it takes one person. I met a guy at a show that's, he's a small press publisher, but it's a legit publisher. He has a huge catalog of work. He gets UPCs on books and gets them in stores and all that. And it just takes one person to like what you're doing. He likes what I'm doing. We're talking about me switching over to that publisher. And I mean, nothing's written in stone yet, but it's in the initial talk. So it just takes one person to support you, one person to believe in you. And that's where a lot of things could happen.
No, I agree 100%. So back to Icepick.
Yeah,
what is Icepick about? We have not said what the book's about yet.
So the book is bam, 1, 2, 3. The book is basically about a guy whose parents were killed. He was left for dead by the same people, the same group of people that killed his parents. I do not disclose yet, who his parents necessarily are. That's a story that I have that will be written eventually. And I don't really divulge in the whole origin yet. I'm going to do an origin issue that most likely will be part of a trade or something like that. We'll figure that out. But it just literally starts out in the heat of the action. Icepick is a dude that's got superpowers. He can manipulate moisture in the air, so he can turn into smoke. He can go, do all kinds of things. Anything that's moisture related, anything that, he can manipulate it to make ice picks out of ice, literally like ice shards, things like that. And it starts out issue 1 where he's just trying to find out who killed his parents, who left him for dead. And it's a revenge story. It starts out as a revenge. His fiance thinks he's dead, and his best friend Luke they're buddies. They work together as scientists. So his buddy Luke is trying to figure out, like, how are you still alive? Like, what happened? When you got shot up in the lab. So I talk a little bit about how the origin started, but it's literally a revenge story. And issues 1 through 4 take place in one single night. So wow. I like stories that kind of do that. And I thought that was cool. I like stories with minimal characters. I love X-Men, don't get me wrong, or Avengers, but I love movies with these very small casts, and I love stories that are just 5 characters or 8 characters, and that's it. You don't need to have like an expansive, I don't know, group of people to tell a great story. You can tell a great story with one person. And so that's how it starts out. And they end up meeting, they find out who's behind, who killed his parents. He finds out who tried to kill him. And that man is Mordred. He's the kind of the ruler of the 9th Circle of Hell. And, kind of had that Dante's Inferno behind it and influence. So I did some research, and I really wanted like a really good protagonist, kind of back and forth. And issue 3, I actually explained like who Freak is and why does he look like a stupid ass clown? What is his backstory? So I explained that, and I explained his relationship to Icepick. And issue 4 just kind of continues this battle of, Mordred wants Icepick's soul. It belongs in hell, and Mordred thinks that that's where it belongs. So he basically set all these things in motion to get Icepick's soul back in hell. And issue 4 introduces a new character that kind of comes in, swoops in, and takes care of business. So I have to see how that goes.
I'm digging this. And I'm listening to you. I'm seeing the Spawn influences.
Yeah, for sure.
But you flipped it, because, visually doesn't look like Spawn, but it has its own feel. It has that street feel to it, and it has the supernatural. And like you said, it's murder. You have a lot of elements going on, and with a smaller cast, it's more personal. You can actually get to know the characters, their motivations, who they are, and so forth.
Yeah.
And one of these, when I first saw Icepick, Wildstorm used to have a character called Backlash.
Bro, Backlash. Oh my God, dude.
I saw that influence in the character design. I was like, about time.
Well, you're one of the, actually, come to mind, I think you're the first person to really bring that up. Brett Booth was a huge influence on the art style. It doesn't always show through, but there's parts where like, it's like Brett Booth, Backlash. I love Backlash, love Brett Booth's work. So absolutely, there's a huge influence, and even Backlash could turn into smoke in a few of the issues, and he did some weird things. But yeah, nail on the head, dude. That's Backlash is definitely an influence.
I like that. See, now, what made you pick ice? I've always wanted to see somebody with an ice power, like be the star of the book. A lot of times they're just background or side characters. What made you pick that particular power set?
So when you're 15 and 16 and, you got Mortal Kombat out there, come on.
There you go.
I love Scorpio and Sub-Zero. That game was pretty influential on me as a kid. And it was just a natural, weird kind of, I mean, I read Backlash books, I read Spawn books, and when I wrote this as a kid, it was total trash. I'm not going to lie. It was absolute hot mess. It was a trash can fire. And I'm like, this makes no sense. The art was terrible. And as I got older and life just kind of started taking me down paths, I started thinking about different things. And, I thought ice would be really cool. I thought moisture in general, it gives the character a lot of flexibility as far as their powers go. And I'm a professional designer by trade. So just the design of Icepick has a lot of elements of, it's easily recognizable. You can see them from far away. The blue's my favorite color. So, there's personal parts of it, of the character that are from me. And it's just, ice is just a cool thing. You just don't see it.
Exactly. Because everybody's default is fire, lightning. And I'm like, there's other types of elements if you're going to use an elemental type power. And I like the fact that you're like, no, it's not just ice, it's moisture. Yeah. And you could do a lot with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's times where in the Icepick issues, I show him kind of sneaking up behind guys coming from the heating vents, the air conditioning ductwork in a building, and he's all smoky and coming down and kills these guys. So, I definitely play on some of the different elements, how you can manipulate moisture and what you can do. And, the book has a lot of supernatural elements as well. And that's where the next story arc is going to take it and continue the supernatural element. It's not just like demons and all kinds of crazy stuff. The world is pretty expansive, and it's just getting all of that out there,
Exactly. Now, I was just curious. People sweat. Could he do something with somebody's sweat to either harden it and choke them with their own sweat? Or
absolutely.
That'll be badass. You got to draw that.
Yeah, I'll find a way to write that in.
Name the character Arthur. Let me have an epic sweaty death.
Yeah.
Now, everybody, when it comes to Kickstarters, they always want to know the perks. Mm-hmm. It's like, you're getting the book. Is that enough? No, it's Kickstarter. No. The book's not enough. What else can we get? So tell us about some of the perks and rewards that people can get if they back this campaign.
Well, the nice thing that Kickstarter's done is they've allowed any perk to be an add-on. And that's something kind of new. And it's genius, but really, it starts out, obviously, there's all the traditional perks. You're talking like the digital copies if you want that. There's the physical copies. I like the little individual issues. There's that. There's a catch-up perk that's going to have all 4 issues. I have 2 variant covers, and I have a third one I'm going to reveal soon. It's more of a tribute, kind of homage to Michael Turner. Rest in peace. A huge influence of Michael Turner as well. And so there's going to be 3 variant covers. I'm going to do a lanyard. I know we go to cons all the time. We have lanyards. I bought plenty of lanyards. I thought that would be a cool idea. I have an exclusive 5-pack of trading cards that I'm going to have. And I'm kind of thinking about some of the stretch goals, maybe do like a foil card or something fun like that. And I'm also throwing in a bunch of original art. So I'll have an issue 4 sketch cover of Icepick. So if people want an actual sketch cover of issue 4, I'll have that. I'll have sketch cards available. People can actually do artwork. So if they want like comic artboard, they want to have whatever they want drawn on it, I'll do that as well. So there's just kind of a mix of a variety of things.
I like that. Now, you mentioned earlier you're working with some artists to do some variant covers. How many variant covers are you going to have, and who have you recruited to join the Icepick team?
Yeah, so the first guy is actually a local guy out here to Seattle. Done a few shows with him. He's got some of the most. It's a very simplified style of artwork, but it's just beautiful and brilliant. His name's Tony Dela Cruz, so shout out to him. And Matt Flint is the other artist that I just posted his black and whites. He's actually going to do coloring on it and everything. So he'll have that here in a few days. And then I'm going to have one that's going to be a virgin variant. That'll be the homage to the Michael Turner book, old Witchblade book.
Witchblade that's going to be awesome. That's a very underrated series. People
Yeah.
tend to just still look at it as a TNA book, but that book was so much more. Like
Yeah.
the lore that they built between the Witchblade and Darkness, you know, it's like, wow.
Well, and it's interesting you mentioned that, because that's one of the influences for me. Is the next story arc is going to continue to build on some of the lore that I have already established in Icepick, but it's not even, Icepick is not the main character. So it's going to be a very interesting, you know, continuation of the story with the characters, but focusing on a different character.
Nice. See, I like that world building. And, you know, I use that word a lot on this show because it's such a great way of telling a story and not just like go to plot point to plot point to plot point. That world building starts with your backstory.
Yeah.
And if if a writer doesn't establish that backstory to build upon, there's no world building. So I like how you're connecting all these different fractions, you know, in the story. It's like, hey, this world's not limited to just Icepick. There's more stuff going on out here.
Yeah. And the thing with Icepick is, because I'm doing everything myself, I tend to get a little like lazy when I'm either writing or drawing, and I'm like, oh, I don't like this, I can just rewrite it, or I didn't give much thought to this part of it. So, I mean, there are definite holes, but that's just for me to get better at. That's for me to continue to plot better, to think about stuff further down the road, you know, ideas and storylines that can affect what I'm doing now, you know, that have an effect on today's issue. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
No, I agree. Now, what is the funding goal for the Kickstarter?
It's minimum. I'm basically just looking to get funding for the artists that I hired for variant covers. So it's only $500. I mean, it's pretty low, but hopefully we'll meet that goal and you know, continue on for more issues.
You mean you're not going to be greedy?
I'm passionate. I'm not necessarily in it for the money. I love the help and support to kind of get it published. And obviously printing low print run books definitely is way more expensive than doing, you know, 5,000 books. So, you know.
Exactly. And one of the things throughout this conversation, I noticed you're very humble. You know, you enjoy creating comics. You're not into it for the money. It's like, yeah, it's nice if, you know, you make a profit, you know, that's cool, but you generally enjoy comics. And
I do, yeah.
I love that. Like, there's so many people that it's a cash grab, you know. Yeah. Or I ask so many creators, I talk to them a lot, and, you know, people are like, oh, can I come on your show? Can I come on your show? And I tell a lot of people no, because I ask them, like, do you read comics? Oh, no, I don't read comics. I haven't read a comic book in 10, 15 years. And I'm like, no, you can't come on my show. And, you know, I look at people's timelines and I can tell by their conversations, like, they're not even reading comics. Why are you creating comics and you don't even read the medium that you're creating? I don't understand that.
Yeah. And that's a great point. I mean, I got like 8 or 10 long boxes of comics that I have, and it grows. It just continues to grow, unfortunately. But I have kind of shifted to what I'm reading. You know, I'm starting to read more stuff from Kickstarter and starting to pay attention to who's putting content out there and what is that. Because, you know, I mean, it's nice to support your Marvel, DC. I mean, they've kind of been writing trash for a few years now, and I just haven't been on board. You know, I love a lot of those characters. They're dear to my heart. That's what I grew up with. But they're just not engaging for me. They might be for teenagers. They might be for, you know, millennials, 20-year-olds, whatever. Not for me. So I just, Agent Solo, you know, was a great book. And it's just those types of, Kickstarter books. Oh, this is independent books. I feel there's more to them. There's more passion involved. There's more just uniqueness and genuine love for the media.
Huh. I know the guy that wrote Agent Solo. He looks like me. Oh, yeah, that's me. But I agree, because, you know, you get the people that are generally passionate about the medium, passionate about a story that they want to tell. And if they make money off of it, they're happy. But they're they just want to get stuff out there to other people. It's like, hey, you might like what I created. Here you go.
Yeah.
That's why, I respect people that are like, you know what, I'm just trying to cover my printing, or if I had some help with this, I'm just trying to make sure that they're taken care of. And my focus is on building this audience that will stick with what I'm creating long term. I respect that.
Aside from last year, I mean, I didn't do any conventions. I don't think anyone did last year, but the prior 3 years, I mean, I probably did only 12 conventions, 11, 12 conventions, just local ones to Seattle. And I think I only made a profit on one of those shows. I mean,
oh wow!
For me, it's not about going in there trying to make $5,000, a weekend. It's to be there to engage the fans. I mean, I love doing artwork and drawing stuff. I mean, I love doing sketch covers; those are fun. And it's just meeting the fans, engaging with the fans, and seeing what they like, what they don't like, and it's just, for me, it's all fun.
Nice. Now, before we wrap up, because I need food, I need tacos with no cheese.
Oh man, that's tough, bro.
Real tacos do not have cheese. What else do you want potential backers, potential readers to know about Icepick, and why should they back this campaign?
Back it because you like it. I mean, back it because you want to. Back it because you think it's cool. Back it because maybe you're a personal friend of mine. Back it because, it's something unique. It's something different. And I can promise you're probably going to enjoy something about it. You're going to enjoy whether the art, the story, something about it you're going to like. Back it because it's got cool rewards. Back it because, you like the cover artist. There's just, for me, it's like, do it because you like it. If you don't like it, that's fine. I'm sure you'll find something you like. But for me, back it because you like it.
I like that. That's well said. Y'all hear that? Back this campaign. Check out. We're going to post a link. So check out the campaign. If you like it, if you love it, if you can't afford to back it, share it. That's it. No financial obligation. Just share it. Your friend, your neighbor, your mom, your sister. This might become your girlfriend's new favorite comic book character. Just give it a chance. Check it out. I will post a link. The Kickstarter goes live next Friday, and we will remind you of that.
Yes, every day. I will be on social media every day reminding people.
All right. Well, Mr. Todd Rayner, I do thank you for your time. Again, before we go, where can they check you out on social media? Yeah,
so it's just Todd Rayner Art. It's my name plus art. Everything is Todd Rayner Art. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm not super active on Twitter because that's just a hot mess. But, it's fun. And, hit me up. Feel free to message me. I definitely do commissions outside of Icepick, but that's my main focus right now. And next week we'll see how this campaign goes.
All right, y'all heard from the man himself. Check out the campaign. As always, like, subscribe, hit that notification button. That way when a new video will pop up. I might interview Todd again. You never know. But if you don't subscribe, you won't see Todd's face.
Right.